Right, my gravy granules, maybe not the video you're expecting today, but I felt like having a bit of a rant at watching one of my favourite games and, well, kind of franchises, I want to say, die a very slow and horrible death at the hands of poor management. So this controversy comes from Total War Warhammer 3, which is developed by Creative Assembly, who have decided in their infinite wisdom to up the price of their latest DLC whilst reducing the content and basically telling the consumer base to go fuck themselves in the politest terms I've ever seen. They've now semi-threatened to pull the plug on supporting this game. This is a game they've been building up to for, well, I want to say 10 years. So if you don't know, Total War Warhammer 3 is like the culmination of a whole bunch of games and DLCs that have been worked on since like 2013, I want to say. I jumped in on Warhammer 2 because we'll go into that in a minute. So they first released Total War Warhammer 1, which has a bunch of base races like Empire, which is like Empire of Man, Dwarves, Greenskins, which are Orcs, and Vampire Counts, undead. That included a bunch of DLC races like Wood Elves, Bretonia, so, Knights, and Norsca, which are like northern tribal chaos worshipping people, as well as the Warriors of Chaos, which obviously, the demonic, evil people faction. In simple terms, we're putting it. And then they released Warhammer 2, which is technically a separate game. So it has like High Elves, Dark Elves, Skaven, which are rat people, Lizard Men, and then a bunch of DLC for that. So Tomb Kings, Vampire Coast, and there's probably one other that I generally can't remember. However, so with Warhammer 1 and 2, you can combine them. So if you play Warhammer 2 and you own Warhammer 1, it gave you an extra game mode, which is called Mortal Empires, which has the map from Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2, and you can play as any race from Warhammer 1 or 2 and basically conquer the world in a massive sandbox open map. I kind of defeated myself saying that, but in a general massive map. Warhammer 3, once again, increases the size of the map, adds 7 new races technically, and 2 of those were basically brand new with development from Games Workshop, the people whose IP this is based on, another fairly greedy company. So they did that. The launch of this game back in February 2022 was one of the most pathetic things I've ever seen from a game of that year. I don't want to say it was as bad as, Dynasty Warriors, or Dynasty Warriors 9, but it was pretty bad. They have since patched a load of things and trying to heal it up. However, since I believe it was August last year, they finally released the Immortal Empires map, which combines Warhammer 1, 2, and 3's map. Creative Assembly did do a good thing a while ago of giving everybody who owned just Warhammer 3 the ability to play the Immortal Empires game mode, which previously you would have had to have had 2 other games in your possession to play. However, with this, you don't actually get access to the races or armies that are available in those 2 games. You still have to buy them if you want like a full package, basically. So there's been a lot of work for 10 years going into this game, and with this latest DLC, they have reduced the amount of new stuff in it, as well as it just looks lower in quality, essentially, as well as just increasing the price to half of what the base game is for basically less than fuck all. So there was an official developer response to the price increase, which was saying, our costs are up. Unfortunately, that means prices have to rise. They literally don't. So, from what I understand, Creative Assembly is the biggest video game developer in the UK. Well, I'd like to think I'd know that because I live in that country. However, with an employee base of 800, apparently only 20 people are working on a game that's been in development for 10 years, or that they've been actively supporting, in a way. I did put up air quotes there. The controversy comes in a lot from just the amount of bugs in the game which they still haven't bothered to fix. Apparently we're only getting 4 patches a year, and just the overall lack of support is what is killing this game as well. The thing is now, their days are kind of numbered with this game. They had plans to support this for another, 2 years? There was a roadmap of this on what they would plan to release as DLC, what lords you can, if you read into the Warhammer lore, you can kind of guess which lords are coming, what races they plan on overhauling, reworking, releasing new units for. They're now threatening to basically abandon the development for it. And for a game which they put out such a massive roadmap for and had previously had lots of support when it was Warhammer 2, they are now basically just sticking the middle fingers up to people and saying, you're not worth it. And honestly, if this kind of thing continues, people are going to avoid buying from your company completely. They're already on borrowed time with how they've treated some of their previous projects. So it's quite interesting that I mentioned Dynasty Warriors earlier, because there was a previous game, which I've used in some of my videos talking about Dynasty Warriors a couple of years ago, called Total War Three Kingdoms, which was promised a fair amount of DLC to expand when the starting years of each of the lords, adding new lords, adding, some new races as DLC. However, they just abandoned it sight unseen because apparently it wasn't worth it, and the reception to those DLCs weren't particularly great. The first one being starting, I'm trying to think, was it like 80 years, or if not longer, after like the main campaign's end. You play as like Sima Yan's sons, and they're all vying for control of China. All the factions played relatively the same. It was like the least worthwhile DLC. And over its lifetime of 4 DLCs, only one of them was actually like pretty good. I think the Nan Man DLC was fairly good, adding Meng Huo, Zhu Rong, and I'm trying to think what his name is. Is it Wu Tagu? I think it might be Wu Tagu, or whatever the absolutely massive guy, generic officer, is in Dynasty Warriors. However, that was like only the one good DLC, and then they abandoned support of it because they're planning on making another game, Total War Three Kingdoms 2, which is going to be basically the same thing. It's like making Dynasty Warriors 10, Dynasty Warriors 9 again, having an open world. You get what I mean. They're going to have basically the same essential game with the same characters, the same units, but just slap an extra number on the end. I can't really remember where I was going with this because I'm not scripting this. So they're on borrowed time with their bad way of treating consumers in regards to stuff like that. Another bit of the controversy comes in with a game called Hyenas, which is a FPS game which, for some reason, a strategy developer is developing to, let's say, an oversaturated market. It rings of, was it 2017's Lawbreakers, made by Cliff Brzezinski, which released to an oversaturated market with things like Overwatch in it at the moment. A class-based shooter which looked incredibly generic and died as quickly as it came, basically. Released to very little fan service, and Hyenas is in a similar place. A lot of people seem to think the increase for the DLC is because it's going to cover the cost of Hyenas absolutely tanking on launch. It probably doesn't help they haven't marketed it that well. The name is absolutely garbage, which doesn't surprise me, because if you call your names Total War, insert game name here, you've got a pretty easy time, and you get to live off the free exposure you've had with your previous games, which have been fairly good. So yes, it's it is just honestly quite sad seeing this game die so quickly. They're not putting in resources into a game which should have had absolutely years of support. And there is evidence to show that they are actually lying with the price increases. Well, I mean, prices have gone up. Yeah, your overhead cost for running your office and stuff is going to be... Literally everyone is in the same boat. I mean, wow. The memes on the Total War subreddit are absolutely amazing. This covers like historical stuff as well, but nearly all of this is about Warhammer, Total War. Yeah, so going about two companies... Obviously, Creative Assembly being the game's publisher, they don't want to patch more than every 6 months because, you know, that takes effort. There's been game-breaking bugs that they introduced in with the last DLC, which is absolutely fucking hilarious. I do like the Patrick Bateman memes. Do it, CA. Stop supporting Warhammer 3 or just blackmailing a core fan base just because they may have an opinion on a game they love. Let's see how many copies of Hyenas and Pharaoh you will sell. Total War Pharaoh, which is their next latest game, which is going to tank because people are complaining it's too much like Total War Troy with just, you know, an Egyptian skin on it, which, you know, kind of fair enough. They're now getting the game being review bombed, which is quite funny, mostly negative. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was even further down on that. I haven't got it installed, so... store page, let me just check. Mostly negative, so it's gone down a bit. So yeah, I've put 1,047 hours into it. I haven't got it installed because I have other games to play. That's one of my main gripes as well. Why increase the price for less content when, if you're competing against stuff like Baldur's Gate, which I'm going to use as an example many times, shouldn't your DLC go down? That surely you would sell more copies because you're not actually sending out a physical item to people. It's just, you know, DLC. And if the DLC is good, then you can potentially get more and more people to buy it by, like, you know, word of mouth, getting people to actually want to play the game. Obviously, it's got hundreds and hundreds of hours, and with this increase to the DLC, you're just burning bridges with people that actually want to pay and play your games. It's just absolute joke. Increase our costs are up. So apparently people are going through their accounts. So they got what's that? I can't think. What's that? 20 million? 6 million compared to an operating profit, yeah. The increase in operating profit can be attributed to revenue growing faster than costs. People are refunding pre-orders on the DLC. They're refunding pre-orders on their next game. CA's accounts suggest they're lying about cost increases. Like, it's just an absolute joke. Yeah, another one. I refunded Total War Pharaoh because the DLC stream, and I fully believe you should too as well. Obviously, Three Kingdoms is a game that was abandoned. Warhammer 3 first time. Yeah, also tax reliefs under the UK government. So Rocksteady are also caught in that as well. So it's just... they're taking the piss, basically. They are honestly taking the piss because they don't want to spend money to actually support a game which, if they did support, you would get more people buying it because they want to play stuff. The thing is, they're now competing against, obviously, Baldur's Gate. And why would you spend money, half your money... Sorry, I'm trying to think of a way of wording this. Why would you spend money on a DLC which adds basically nothing to the game, which is half the cost of the base game, which might not even, like, this might not even be a good DLC. Some suggestions of, like, where is it? There's animations of one of the units, and it's just, like, absolutely pathetic. Yeah, here. Like, wow, the woman on the back's not even moving. It's just an absolute joke. So why would you spend money on that when, let's face it, people have less free time and less expendable income these days? They're going to spend it on an actual good product. you can't invest that much time, like the time that I do into Total War Warhammer. I just, binge it for a couple of days. Why would people waste their money on that when this company clearly doesn't give a Sunday morning left-handed wank about you, when you could play something like Baldur's Gate 3? The current state of video games is just an absolute bloody marketing suicide in a way. Like, if the price of continued development on Warhammer 3 is €25 per Lord DLC, then let it die. Like, nobody is happy with this unless you're just an absolute clown. Andy Hall said there are only 20 people on the Warhammer 3 development team. Rookie podcast with Andrew Law, this is about 5 months ago. Flagship IP. Hang on, let's just have a quick look at this. Yeah. What are they doing? I have 882 employees. What? Like, is that a joke? I just don't get it. Yeah, UK video game sector is booming. Like, the video game sector in the UK is just, like, basically non-existent. We don't have that many developers over here. We have, like, a bunch of indies. I think Rockstar was based over here for a while. I'm not sure if they actually still are. But, yeah, there's, like, 5 million extra funding going into UK games, like Creative Assembly. It's just a joke. Like, some of the content in this DLC does look okay. It's just, I don't even know. Like, this is literally just marketing suicide for absolute morons. Like, yeah, this is the cost increase of different DLC. So this is in the base game. Oh, Beastmen, that's the one I forgot to mention earlier. Realm of the Wood Elves, 3 Legendary Lords, more than 20 units. Rise of the Tomb Kings, 4 Legendary Lords, more than 20 units. I should mention these are race packs, so you get a completely new race to play as. New race. So it's a bit disingenuous with that, because these are race packs and this is a Lord pack. So you get 3 Legendary Lords and 10 units. Whereas the actual... so Silence of the Fury, which is $9.99, 2 Legendary Lords, 1 free LC Lord. So I think you had to... I'm trying to think. That was Dryker, but I think you had to own at least the Wood Elf DLC for the original game. So 10 units. So it's less than half of what... So basically the same amount of content for $9.99 in a sense. It's just actually bizarre. I don't even know what to say now. It's actually quite sad. How would you feel if CA actually pulled the plug on Warhammer 3? Memes about it, yeah. So many memes. Like, people don't want Games Workshop to give... Well, don't want Creative Assembly to have the Warhammer license now, because they're just treating it like absolute fucking... like a fleshlight, essentially. And developers on... like, fixing the games... For games broken as Warhammer 3, 4 updates a year doesn't cut it. Sure, they said they're going to fix Nakai, but it's been broken for 3 months. 3 months for a Lord who cannot recruit his main unit, which he boosts incredibly. It's just an absolute joke. I just don't get it. Like, there is literally a bug feedback thread, which is just, like, look at this. People care about this game, and... You don't, like, people just do not care. Well, the developers just do not care about this. Spell costs are not displayed correctly. Buffs from vampire count skill master dead. Blah, blah, blah. Like, look at this. That's a single person that's noticed that from probably just playing one faction. And there's, like... I can't even remember how many factions or races there are on this. Playing as Warriors of Chaos, Skull Crushers of Khorne do not benefit from the red line. Like, the amount of bugs. And there is also in this... I've gone to the wrong thing. Need to go on Workshop. I think it's one of the ones I... probably help if I could spell. No, where is it? I'm trying to see. Oh, your favourites. No, I can't see it because I haven't got the subscribed items. There we go. Community bug fix mod batch 6. People are modding in fixes for your own fucking game. What, do you just think we're absolute morons and we should do your work for you? Like, I just don't get it. I don't get it. Yeah, mummy Slanesh Mao Ying. Yeah. So there are some people modding like better fixes for your own game. Like, I remember previously in one of the games, Total War Rome 2, people were modding in unplayable factions, and then Creative Assembly had the bright idea of getting rid of that mod, which is obviously a community made thing, and then reselling that ability to play as those factions for money. So they're on borrowed time. They either decrease the cost of this DLC or what they're asking, or this game goes to die, basically. And that's, like, I'm not threatening them here. They're not going to watch this video, but that's just how it's going to go. Like, they have dug a hole so deep that they are probably in the centre of the fucking earth right now. They are really going to have to claw their way back from messing this up. I just want to say, obviously, a lot of this does sound like crying to an outsider, but you would have thought in this day and age when people release broken stuff, which this game is in an absolutely pathetic state at the moment, but people love it because of the characters, the gameplay, the lore, the fact it's just, Warhammer, and it's like an actual good game based on it. People will put up with that, but they've just bitten off more than they can chew with in regards to like people's good graces. It's just, I don't get it. I just wanted to have a bit of a rant, but this game's dead. It's actually competing against, things with love and care put into it. Like, I don't want to mention the name because people will be like, he ranted about a game not being good, and then he mentioned, Genshin Impact or something like that, which, to be fair, they did release 4.0 for Genshin Impact, and the amount of content in that is just, like, actually wild. And that's a free game. Like, and they're fixing stuff in that all the time. Whereas, like, we can't spend any money to fix a flagship title. It's just, yeah, absolute joke. Thank you for watching if you did. Hopefully, if people keep piling on the pressure against Creative Assembly, they will change their minds and not be so, like, have their head stuck in the ground. This was a bit inconsistent and all over the place, but yeah. The thing is, I just want to say, I actually, going back to this being one of my favourite franchises, it technically wasn't. I used to play the games up until Total War Rome 2, so one of my favourite games of all time is Total War Shogun 2. It's based on the Sengoku Jidai era of Japan, which is what Samurai Warriors is based on, if people know me from playing those games, because, I used to play them all the time. So that was one of my favourite games, and then I saw they were releasing Total War Rome 2. I thought, I'll pre-order it, it looks pretty good. It came out in the most broken state I've ever seen a game. Graphics basically didn't work. The graphical bugs were on par with Dynasty Warriors 9's. Dynasty Warriors 9? Yeah, I did say that right. So I'm tripping over my words. And I literally never played it again. It was a game that had such bad reviews on day one that a couple of months, I think it might have been a year and a half down the road, they had to release a updated version of the game to get rid of the reviews on Steam called Emperor Edition, because it actually became a slightly good game, so it didn't have so many negative reviews. And that is a true story. And obviously, after getting burnt from that, I didn't play Total War Rome 2 Emperor Edition, Total War Attila, Total War Thrones of Britannia, which is actually awful as well. So I missed out on a fair few amount of games, and Total War Warhammer 1. And then I saw Total War Warhammer 2 on sale and thought, I'll get into it. And obviously, word of mouth is what spreads these games around and, brings more people in. Just the overall design of the games is what draws people in. And, good word of mouth. If you treat your customers like kings, then the more likely they are going to tell their friends and quite possibly be overly annoying in their love and, appreciation of something. That's how you get people to actually want to play your game. You're turning away people that were already playing your game and destroying it from the inside, when this could be an absolute cash cow if you treated your customers like kings and actually updated it every so often, instead of driving them away to play better games, which, let's be honest, a lot of games in this day and age are lots better than this, and that's just fucking sad. So thanks for watching. Sorry it's a bit of a rant, and I'll see you with an actual video, which I've been editing for a week now, because I need lots of footage. So thank you very much, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.